So I'm really impressed with editorial cartoonists. You have to be a great artist and you have to have a keen editorial mind, but you also have to deal with a deadline. So we've given you, what, an hour and 20 minutes to come up with a cartoon, making fun of me.
Yeah,
Be kind.
I'll try.
Ready to go?
I'm ready.
Michael, pleasure to sit down and finally get to chat with you.
Thanks for having me.
You were just let go just a few weeks ago by the Halifax Chronicle Herald. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, all things considered. I have some, exciting things coming up. I think it led to some good things.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that. One of the things that I'm really interested in finding out from you is the state of editorial cartooning. And you kind of got a sense of it when you were just at a big conference of cartoonists in Canada and the United States, and kind of compare that to what that convention was like 30 years ago.
Yeah, my first convention with the Americans was in Toronto. The Association of Canadian Cartoonists and the American Association of Editorial Cartoonists had a joint convention. It was attended by 350 guests. Compared to the convention I just came from, which was another joint convention, this time in Montreal. It's not always in Canada, but just coincidentally, there might have been 50 cartoonists.
Wow. So far fewer cartoonists. What about the mood? Is it gloomy?
Well, gloomy's a good word, but it's also positive. Like, we get together and we're like family. So you come away from it feeling positive, at least about the profession. But you come away from it gloomy about where the profession is, So yeah, a little bit of both, a mixture of both things.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of things that I think probably make it tough. The big one is newspapers just aren't what they used to be, right? Fewer people are getting paper copies of their newspaper. The papers are trying to just spend less money these days because they've lost a lot of their advertising revenue. I guess there are just far fewer opportunities out there for people like you.
Oh yeah, far, far fewer. I mean, every newspaper worth its grain of salt had an editorial cartoonist. And slowly, over a period of 20 years, not 4 or 5, they've been shedding their cartoonists.
Now here's the irony, I see you more than ever because I follow you on social media. So there I am in Vancouver, and I wasn't seeing you, for example, in the Halifax paper, but I see you on Twitter. That must be nice to be, the boss of how your cartoons get out there. You can put them out when you want and put out what you want.
Yeah. You control everything, every facet of the cartooning getting out there. If Twitter paid, if it actually paid, we'd probably be in a golden age of cartooning because you can see everybody's cartoon from around the world. Like, you never used to be able to do that. I've never been viewed more on a daily basis, yet my source of income are drying up. It makes no sense.
Now you're on Substack.
Substack.
Which is a site where subscribers can pay and get your stuff. How's that going?
That's going very well, actually. It was, before I was let go from the Herald, 15% of my income, and now it's more like 40% of my income.
Is that because you're not making any money from the Chronicle
Well,
Herald?
that's partially. I've actually adjusted for that, but I've got a tremendous amount of support over the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, so the economics of editorial cartooning, for all the reasons we've mentioned, is kind of tough. I feel like there's another thing that's going on that's kind of tough, and that is this polarized, angry, political world that we see in the news all the time. What impact does that have on cartoonists?
Well, that has a huge impact in the sense that, you get on social media, you get instant feedback. Like, you had to wait, and this is going to sound like a dinosaur, you used to have to wait till letters of the editor came in. And they might trickle in over days, so you wouldn't have a full impact of the complaints for a few days later. Now you get it instantly. Now if I do a cartoon against Pierre Poilievre, I hear nothing but complaints that I never do Trudeau. But then when I do Trudeau, I hear nothing but complaints that I never do Poilievre. It's because not only is social media the primary focus of today's, area to complain. But I don't even think each side sees the other cartoons. I don't I think they get, so if I draw a cartoon on Pierre Poilievre, it gets shared by conservatives all over the internet. Or it gets shared by liberals because it complains about Poilievre. But they don't see each other's posts for some reason, or they only see the complaints,
I do a live radio show on CBC, a call-in show, Cross Country Checkup on Sundays, and it's so busy I can't use my phone during the show. Yeah. At the end of the program, at the end of the 2 hours, with some trepidation, I pick up my phone and I take a look at social media and I think to myself, okay, how did it go today?
Right.
Do you go through that process after your cartoon's been posted or printed?
No, because I don't want to see it. I don't care. But with
Really
that said,
though? Really? You don't care?
Hey, listen. Yes, on some days when I'm not doing anything, I go back and look. But I don't. Put it this way: I don't jump on it. I don't jump on to see what's being said.
Now you take a risk. Anybody in the public world takes a risk when you put yourself out there, and you take a risk that you're going to get criticism. But you also take a risk that you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I want to show you a couple of cartoons. I'm going to show you a couple of cartoons, one of which I think, was misunderstood by people. So tell us about that one.
Well, this was done just a few weeks ago. This cartoon was drawn on a day I had to do 2 cartoons. That's the first reason it got out there. I had counted how many mayoralty candidates there were, and there's 16. And never in Halifax has there been 16 people running for mayor. So I remembered an old cartoon I drew of there being too many Liberal leaders in the mid-2000s.
Candidates, yeah.
Too many candidates. And it was simply a guy with a shirt on saying, the shirt said everybody, and the monkey with a shirt on which said his monkey, and the monkey says, hey, I'm also thinking of running for Liberal leader.
So everybody and his monkey.
Everybody and his monkey. You read that as everybody and his monkey. Now I know that most people say everybody and his dog, but for some reason I always said everybody and his monkey, and that might have been just me, or it might be an Atlantic Canada thing, it might be a New Glasgow thing. I don't, or monk, wherever. But I chose monkey, and that was also problematic as I discovered. Because I used the same gag, only instead of everybody's running for Liberal leader, I said everybody's running for mayor, everybody and his monkey. The problem was a week earlier, the 16th candidate announced late in the race that he was also running. And he was a black candidate. And we all know the problem with associating monkeys with, it's just appalling, to associate the two.
But you didn't know, and it obviously was not your motivation.
And I didn't know there was a black candidate running for a good reason. There'd never been a black candidate running before in the history of Halifax mayoralty races. If there was a black candidate running, you'd think that would be top news the week before. Everybody would know it. But, these days, the way newspapers are, it didn't run. So I went with everybody and his monkey idea, and the candidate, Daryl Johnson, thought, because of timing, that this cartoon was about him.
Wow.
And at first, I got my back up going, no, this is just everybody and his monkey. This isn't a racist, this is just bad timing. I think every friend I ever had from the black community contacted me over the next 2 days, telling me how, yes, you didn't mean that, but the timing suggests that, and you got to really look at it, you should re-examine how you're handling this. And I did. And I met Daryl. Daryl was kind enough to meet me for coffee. We got along great, and I don't know if the rest is history, but the rest is, at least he sees my side of it, I see his side of it, and I didn't intend anything bad about it.
It's an example of the perils of cartooning. Here's another cartoon that created controversy. Any regrets?
No, of course not. I don't regret many cartoons.
The Halifax cartoon, you realize, was a mistake for all the reasons that you
Right.
mentioned. What about this one?
No, this isn't a mistake. I intended every line, whatever you get from this cartoon, I intended. Like this, that was a bad day, you know, when you first see that photograph of, you know, the father and his daughter. She's not just at his side; she's wrapped in his T-shirt, and you can only imagine what happened in that water, you know, on the Rio Grande. When that photograph appeared. With Trump the way he was, I immediately, I don't know what it was, this was like I didn't spend more than 5 minutes on the idea, and I knew what I was going to draw. I was going to have Trump saying, "Do you mind if I play through?"
Yeah. So instantly controversial. What was that like, that kind of negative reaction?
Well, to have right-leaning newspapers or news
Cable news,
organizations
yeah.
or cable news organizations come at me is nothing new. I welcome that. That didn't bother me at all. And most of the comments were positive, you know. So, no, I wasn't bothered at all by the negative press on it. I knew it was a solid cartoon. I knew it was good. And when someone comes at you for a cartoon that you stand behind 100%, then it makes it easy.
So you have a fine arts degree from Mount Allison University.
Yes.
That is a school that has had some incredibly heralded artists that you know, spent their entire lives creating beautiful painting. You became an editorial cartoonist. Why?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to be a painter. So I consider myself less of a successful cartoonist, more of a failed painter. Now, I know that cartooning has been really good for me, and that does, you know, I'm very fortunate to have had my career in cartooning. I don't want to get you wrong. But I really set out to be a painter, like a gallery painter, not a commercial artist. Cartooning just started taking off faster for whatever reason.
And you love it.
Oh, I love it, yeah. I get to draw every day. I never had to grow up. I mean, cartoonists never had to become adults. They play every day. I'm so fortunate to be able to make art on a daily basis. But I also would like to return to painting, so I have been doing some painting now.
So if you were to go back to Mount A and talk to the fine arts graduating class of 2025, knowing what you do about the state of editorial cartooning, your own career, what's been good, what's been bad, what would you tell them?
Well, if you're thinking of going to newspapers, I might dissuade them. I don't know. It's hard to say because there's also another threat to artists, and it's AI. And it's going to get more difficult, I think, as AI really takes over the universe.
Okay, it's time for the reveal. Let's see it.
All right, here you go.
So you know that grossly distorts my height.
Yes, and I do realize that we're probably the same height. But we were talking about how people, the first thing they notice about you is that you're not as tall as they thought you would be.
Yeah.
So that's where this comes from.
And I'm standing on a soapbox.
And you're standing on a soapbox.
Fantastic. Very well done.
All right, there we go.